time for Planet Green.
We have launched.
We've completely launched. We've started the show, and it is Planet Green Trees. We're about to embark 2 hours of medical marijuana and marijuana reform in Michigan.
Planet Green Trees.
Attention, ladies and gentlemen. The Planet Green Trees show is underway with your host, attorney Michael Komorn.
Alrighty.
We have launched.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Big change from one year to another, I think, just happened. Right. Very excited. Hope everyone has a happy, healthy, and ass-kicking year. All right.
A lot of ass kicking.
We're back in full force for Planet Green Trees 2022.
Yeah.
Tonight's episode is number 544 from a Dylan song that I can't get out of my head right now. Spanish is the Loving Tongue. It may be a cover, but that's what the name of the show is. Today's January 6th, the year 2022, and we've got a lot to talk about. It's been a while. A lot of different things that are developing, and we're going to do a little reflecting maybe back on the past year and identify some of the good, the bad, and the ugly, and as we go into this ass-kicking year of 2022.
A lot of ass kicking.
So, some of the topics we may be discussing. Of course, there's no guarantees, and we reserve the right to change this list anytime. The 2021 in review. The year in cannabis, the review. On the topic, it's an agenda here. 2, Michigan's new cannabis liability insurance requirements raises concerns by licensees and insurers. 4, how Michigan marijuana regulators are trying to prevent a monopoly at dispensary chains. That's true. And of course, we've got the lab to talk about, and one of our people joining us is going to be re-interviewed about their position of THC and the significance of THC in the cannabis. And I may rant a little bit later, too. All right, so that's some of the things as a teaser. Let's go around the room here and make sure everyone's introduced properly and gets to say their piece before they go on the record. We'll start with the Bunker Boys. They, of course, have nothing to say, but we appreciate them being here and setting things up. Tommy, Joslin, and Dangerous Dan. And to the immediate other side of that, we've got the one and only, still hanging strong over there, sporting the Komorn Law swag, my dear friend, founder of Michigan Parents for Compassion, Jim Powers.
Thank you, Michael. Good evening, everybody. It's great to be here after the holiday break. I hope everybody had a good break, had a chance to disconnect. I know I did, so that was good, but glad to be here tonight and excited for the show.
Very well said, very said. You know, there's a thing, the disconnect is interesting because we define it a lot of ways, and maybe we should, everyone should give a thought on that, but...
Let me dive in a little deeper.
Yeah, but, do you think it's important these days for people to do that? And when you say, disconnect, I mean, it's even more meaning because we're literally tied into phones that are, Bluetooth, but connected, So to disconnect, does it mean the phone and the internet, or are we talking about just the normal?
No, for me, it's figuratively because, I have a certain routine that I follow every day, and I go to work, I do my thing, I come home, and then, you've got a schedule over the weekend, and it's nice to just break free from that.
Sure.
Disconnect.
Sure. That sounds very disciplined, and but the way it has to be. Mm-hmm. And all right, so I want to talk more about this. Steve Miller is here, of course. He is the rover, plays all positions, Komorn Law. I saw him practicing a little law earlier, too. It was pretty wild. No, I'm kidding. He has this phenomenal library of songs that we know from the 70s.
Fly like an eagle.
Abracadabra. Please welcome my dear friend Steve Miller.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Been a busy week already.
It has been a busy week.
Today was great.
A lot of fun today.
Right out of the gate.
We can rant about that a little bit. All right, so let's go to the. Let me see my Zoom. I want to make sure I see everyone on the. Yeah, here we go. Here's the Zoom people up here. We've got. Oh, I'm so glad. We've got first Amanda Joslin. Amanda Joslin, the one and only YouTuber and podcaster and doctor certifier. One of our clients recently sent me a thumbs up. She's fast, Mike. She's fast, is what he said. Please welcome Amanda Joslin. She muted?
Do I need to yell at Justin?
Can't hear.
Justin!
I don't know if these headphones are.
He's not even there!
Uh-oh.
No wonder we can't hear her.
All right.
I can hear.
Unbelievable.
I see these others are muted, but
Where's Jocelyn?
oh, there we go.
There she is.
Okay.
Oh, well, yes, I was going to say thank you for saying that, Michael. Happy New Year to everybody. And I'm looking forward to the show.
All right. All right. I see he got the smoke signal I sent out. Please make sure Jeff Frazier meets with us. I haven't been able. Jeff, so good to see you. Happy New Year, my friend. Welcome. The
Buenas noches, feliz año nuevo. Español es el idioma de amor.
Feliz
Spanish is the
cumpleaños.
language of love.
Happy.
Jeff, did you?
I stop with just a few words.
Jeff, did you get? I've been sending you that song. I was like, it's been going in my head. I don't know. Maybe I'm over dramatizing that Dylan song. The Spanish is the, but it's a cover of something else too. Had you heard it before? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I listened to it. I loved it. I loved it. The piano I found interesting. I wonder if he played that.
It's I don't know. There's a couple other versions of it. Anyways, so how you been? What have you been up to? You hanging out in Texas, and what can you tell us that's new with you?
All was good. All was good in Texas. It was an uneventful holiday season, which is good. And there's, the hemp industry is brand new, but starting to take off. Getting calls from people. I think the fact that the Texas Agricultural Commissioner just bought into hemp whole hog, and in fact, cultivating it, I believe, has gone a long way to really keep much of a backlash against it, or people trying to go after it for marijuana or whatnot. Maybe it's a calm before the storm, but it seems to be fairly relaxed down here.
You'll get a kick out of this, Jeff. We have a client found himself in some trouble
Uh-oh.
in the state of West Virginia.
Oh!
Mountain Mama,
Swing and a miss.
take me home, country roads.
Certainly wouldn't want to be there.
And well, you guys say that I don't. I for some reason I may even think of another side. I thought that it was very I thought that it was very pro plaintiff for some reason. I thought that it was a jurisdiction that people would be bringing all kinds of outrageous lawsuits and getting huge verdicts against. But that's not the case. All right. So what we learned is that it's a conservative jurisdiction, and they're not into marijuana. There's some medical that's kind of brewing around. They're hoping for it to happen. I learned that it is a extremely red state. I mean, I guess it's known to everybody, which is kind of interesting. But but what we learned is that the lab, number one, can't discern hemp versus THC, which is an argument that the lawyers that we're talking about there are embracing and utilizing for victory. And secondly, they have certain policies that only allow them to test a certain amount of the bulk of it. And when there's a lot of it, it's not enough to say you got, or not, whatever a lot means. You got, we tested 2 ounces and it was, it had some THC in it, and we didn't test the rest of it, but we're just assuming, So they already, there's like a first call, like that whole, because they're so backed up, boom, boom, again, with whatever that is that they've, whatever they're producing doesn't validate or verify anything, and now by being able to call it out, it basically destructs on their case because they're incapable of proving it at trial beyond a reasonable doubt, because it's, and anyway, so it's a win for hemp. I mean, and it's because, of course, they have not tried to manipulate, state law contrary to federal law as to what the definition of hemp is versus marijuana. Right, Jeff? You know what I'm talking about? Michigan's messed that whole thing up.
I recall. Yeah, Texas is kind of had an unexpected response to the whole thing. I never expected neither an augmented medical marijuana program, which they've now got a bunch of good, debilitating conditions, and they've raised it up to 1% or 2%. They're kind of, but also just whole hog and embracing hemp. Like I say, I hate to give, Sid Miller credit, but give credit to where credit's due. He is the ag commissioner, who is an extremely red, far red, infrared, is a believer in hemp and is really doing quite a push to make it happen. So there's some good things happening. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, but so far it really hasn't. No indication that they're going after people for CBD or even THC, frankly.
Or Delta 8. They didn't criminalize Delta 8 in Texas, did they?
They're trying to.
Well, they didn't. The legislature didn't, but then the regulatory agency tried to, and they got sued.
They've taken it off the shelves down there, haven't they?
Well, they were trying to, but they got a lawsuit and got the district court and the court of appeals to agree that, as written, the law does not prohibit.
Really cool. All right.
Yeah, does not prohibit, which was a huge surprise for me. But I think, again, the fact that we got an agricultural commissioner who sees dollar signs may be helping out some.
Jeff, what was correct me if I'm wrong, but if Delta 8 wasn't proscribed as being illegal, wasn't some other cannabinoid? We were like surprised that it was unique to Texas. Maybe was it CBD or something? Was CBD criminalized or on the controlled substance list at the time?
Correct. The basic issue with Texas law when we looked at it last, and now with industrial hemp, there may be some changes to it. But the difference between Michigan law and Texas law was that Texas law prohibited
CBD, I think.
It prohibited THC from marijuana and other tetrahydrocannabinols.
Right.
So that's the weird situation where you take a handful of misdemeanor pot and you throw it into a pan of brownies. It becomes other the equivalent of the synthetic like we have up there. So it was a slightly different deal, but now they've pulled hemp out of the Controlled Substances Act.
In Texas.
And like I say, the most amazing thing to me is that the law enforcement seems to have backed off.
Wow. I thought, correct me if I'm wrong, what we came away with was whoever identified and criminalized it in Texas, must have been so forward thinking that this is like in advance that some company is going to try to own the rights to it later on, that they would criminalize it now. Anyways, but all right. So anyway, speaking of THC and CBD and the potency of your cannabis sativa plant, let's get next to our dear friend Jamie Lowell from the Cabbage Radio, and what did I say?
Cabbage.
Gas Cabbage Cafe and Botanical Company.
I was getting all that. I mean, okay.
Long list of things.
I don't go that formal with everyone's bio. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But
It's okay.
But I apologize. I wanted to, besides everyone knows who you are, and they know you're responsible for all things good and bad, right?
Good.
All right. Very good. And you're accountable also, so that's all right.
So I like the idea of talking about some review of 2021 and maybe some looking ahead in 2022. But yes, I am particularly interested in having the discussion of THC and what it really means in your evaluation of product, flower, and concentrates, and so forth.
The ensemble effect.
Well, let's talk about this because, as I mentioned, one of the things on the no, it's a late add-on,
Late add-on
and as I said, whatever,
amendment.
right? So, Kyle Kaminsky, who is a reporter out of the Pulse in Lansing, also known as Lanserdam, or
It used to be known as
it gotten straightened out by Jamie Lowell, and it's all articulated here within the article. I probably should read a little bit to put some context on it. So let me do that. So it starts out, Kyle.
Just read my quote. It encapsulates the entire issue into one fell swoop.
Okay, let me get to that. So it starts out by he owes the Lanserdam readers an apology as we head into the new year. He's been fooled. He's been doing product review features and columns over the last year and placed way too much of an emphasis on THC content of any given cannabis product, which I've recently learned plays far less a role in determining the dankness of your bud and the richness of the resulting high.
So that's a very, very cool part of that article. The person admitting a change of perspective after learning more about it. There's not enough of that, particularly on this issue.
And interestingly, if this information that he's been educated on now is the truth, why or where did this other information come from, and how was that, acquired and allowed to become a conclusion? You know what I mean? Like it's interesting. Like if you think about how that happened as well. I mean, you got to kind of undo that a little bit or show that there's some other ways to look at it. But right? I mean, it's kind of like, I guess, the indica sativa thing, right? That was the way that people describe things. But I do think, I mean,
those are not good predictors of effect either. Those
of
are
course
also issues as far as if that's what you're trying to
but
describe.
See, the idea is to accept THC as the critical factor. I think if you look to the source where that principle has been promulgated, it is not from. I mean, it's probably from, I don't know, it's equally law enforcement as it is from...
I remember the DEA going around saying that. That was exactly part of their pitch.
Yep.
What was that guy's name? Lee Corso or something like that? Before he retired the last couple of years, would go around to town hall meetings and city hall meetings and just have the same spiel about how THC is the active ingredient and blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's where it was said. I mean, that's, in other words... There's no good reason to believe it in the first place. There's nothing that really substantiates that anywhere. And then there is a lot of experience and anecdotal feedback from when cannabis was tested. Testing companies came on the scene for however great and consistent, those processes are. I know there's a lot of controversy in that world about testing and a lot of calls for, trying to shape that up a lot more and stuff. But and then some of the most recent science, the most recent studies, even as of June of last year, really helps to demonstrate that calling it potency is a misnomer. We shouldn't really be doing that, and that it certainly isn't an indicator of effect or how high somebody gets or the quality of the product.
Oh.
Okay, so...
But yeah, it gets used for value. Like somebody who's got higher THC cannabis sells it for more on the market.
And that's where the,
Isn't that
like you were saying earlier, that testing lab comes
And
in.
you wonder why Veritas, was attractive to people who had a method that consistently came up with higher
got the numbers
THC
they
numbers.
wanted? Yeah.
And this is the exact point where industry experts, including those in Lansing, think pot smokers, even longtime stoners like me, meaning Kyle Kaminsky, are getting it all wrong. It's not just THC that runs the show. Jamie Lowell launched Michigan's first medical marijuana dispensary in 2009, helped write the ballot language, and legalized recreational weed by himself, and works as a director of the botanical company.
Got all the signatures myself.
He's also widely regarded and self-proclaimed as one of the state's leading and most vocal experts.
I didn't self-proclaim that.
I know. I'm ready to live.
I was simply proclaimed that.
I told you I was going to read your bio. Here it is. He is by far the most self-proclaimed leading state expert. Kyle does his research. He knows who he's talking to. He's talking to one of the state's leading and most vocal experts on the topic.
I always put it in this perspective of. I've lost track of what I was.
Oh boy.
In addition to
It's the dessert teas
It is.
that happen.
You've said it on here many times about the individual system.
of course, I'm with you.
Contact with all the synergistic, components working together,
Listen.
and then you know what the effect is.
Yeah.
All right, so
He's right.
I am with you. We agree on that.
But there's value. There's value to knowing what the number is.
There's more to also the idea
The
that
value of knowing that it's there, we know, but
Right.
knowing what the number is, because all right. So I'm sorry, Michael, if you want to keep going.
no, go
down
ahead,
the track.
finish the
So
number.
like when we started getting testing results consistently, those of us were doing the kind of dispensary scene or around it or whatever. I mean, it was as a self-standard after some testing labs came on the scene. A lot of places had their stuff tested. There was no mandate. There was shaky ground on whether or not you could even operate. But a lot of people have still had tested cannabis, and there's at least throughout some years some feedback on what the THC number is, and there was never a parallel between that number and necessarily how high somebody got or how good the quality of the cannabis
Oh
was.
no, I know.
Started seeing it then.
I know, but I think there's value to having the number for specifically for medical applications. I know that when we were really involved in the pediatric patient scene, it was super important to know the specific THC levels, the specific CBD levels, and other cannabinoid levels to try and achieve a certain effect or what's a good example? Like
So you know what composition of
PBN,
things
for instance, or CBG.
But you would want to know all of the, as many of the numbers as possible.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So you know what kind of composition of things is really pulling
But-
it off.
But just
What's nice too is some places are putting like the terpene profiles in there as well. So
And just
places are getting
describing
a
it-
lot more complex
Right.
in regards to the information they supply the patient and general population. I think it's a really, really good step.
Describing
I've
it
noticed.
by the major terpenes, as you're saying, is to me like right now they could determine a better way or something at some point as we learn more about this. But that to me just showing like what generally is in it, along with some of those numbers, not just THC, but whatever however deep down the cannabinoid line the testing goes, and shows all the compositions of the different things there. Just more information about what's inside of it, what's all working together for the person to consider. The people who are more sensitive need that information more so they can be a little bit more consistent with what they're trying to use. I like it all.
So I wanted to comment on this. It's like there may have been. I'm not saying this to make it a fact. It's disputed fact, but Jim, when you were giving advice, helping guide parents as you did from the Michigan Parents for Compassion, they didn't know where to go, what to do. They don't know where to start, and the things and markers that you're talking about, like there may have been reporting on terpenes, maybe not. I mean, maybe the reporting on terpenes become
No, we
bigger
never.
thing.
I mean,
right.
we weren't. We didn't have access to
But
that sort of
you were
testing.
you were going like THC and CBD as the
Basic
general-
cannabinoid
right.
testing.
So and that in and of itself may be irrelevant. Like we still
It totally could be. But
and ratios or something could be it could be all this other stuff. And I'm just saying like even with the expertise of Jamie and you can speak for yourself, but I'm saying there's no question that THC alone is not the measurement, right? We all know that. That's not a fucking thing. And that's where and these other things that are influencing the effect, the whatever psychoactive active, not
Yeah,
psychoactive.
not only is it not alone, but it's stupid to shop for it, and
Right.
believe a higher number does means something better or is more
Yeah,
valuable.
I mean, Jamie's spot on. I mean, there's really no, even anecdotally, there's not really any correlation to that number in any meaningful way. I mean, you could consume flower that's testing at 18% THC, and you could consume flower that tests at 27%. And the stuff that's tested for 18% may have a more significant impact on you than the stuff that tested at 27.
No questions, yeah.
And-
All the culminations of things brought it to the receptors and did its thing on you, you know.
And what that does at whatever the preferred or identified combination of variables from that particular plant does for one person,
Yep.
may have absolutely nothing similar in terms of effect on the other, right?
Right.
I mean, if the premise begins with,
And it's not just marijuana that's true with, we see that in, especially in medications all the time that one medication will help one patient and another has a completely different reaction to it just in general. So I don't think it's really surprising. The human body is incredibly complex. So it's kind of cool that what one will, be able to experience with this plant, another may not, just because of their makeup.
agreed. So here, Jamie goes on to opine expertly. In addition to THC and CBD, different strains of different marijuana plants carry unique scents, flavors, and effect. Profiles.
That's not anything that I said.
Uh-oh.
That might have been Rick or something.
Uh-oh. Do we need to get them to issue a retraction?
No, that's he's not reading what I said. So.
All right. It seemed to be associated with yours. I guess it's not quoting, but it seemed to be. All right, never mind. Then this is
He's misquoted the quote.
This is just Kyle then talking about this.
No, he's got like five people.
Yeah,
or
but
so
this is
that he's got.
between you and the staff at Pure Option. Okay, so
he's setting up the Pure Option interview.
no,
with everybody.
he's just talked to you. He says you're an expert.
You haven't read my
These
quote
are
yet.
your words. These are your words because it says he's widely regarded as one of the state's leading experts, and then it goes on to say, in addition to THC, blah 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 blah. I mean, if it's not attributable to you, who else is this attributable to?
Well, damn it, man. Now I have to look at it. So that's not me. That might have been what he said before.
I mean, you think he came up with this on his own? The most common terps are myrcene, carafilene, limonene, pinene.
No, he
That's you.
researched that.
That's how you
No, it's
talk.
not.
Oh, come on.
All
All right,
that's
fine.
That's not what I was quoted
All right.
in the article saying. There's a quote that comes after that introduction that you read. That's the only quote I have in there, and that kind of encapsulates what this is about. And that's
Yeah, it starts out, there is no good reason to believe that the THC percentage of flower concentrate is in addition to, I don't know, the next page gets into, I don't know. That seems like,
my quote split the pages, and so you just fell off.
I don't know. It's fine.
Oh, God. We got to go to a break. It's 8:30.
Hold on, we didn't finish. Did we figure out what the best kind of cannabis is? Well, Jamie, what's the exact number for everyone so we know? Because
I'll say I just looked up this this study from University of Colorado that's published in JAMA from June of 2020, so like 6 months ago. And I'll just read the first couple of paragraphs for perspective. Smoking high-potency marijuana concentrates boosts blood levels of THC more than twice as much as smoking conventional weed, but it doesn't necessarily get you higher, according to a new study of regular users published today by Colorado University Boulder researchers. Quote, surprisingly, we found that potency did not track with intoxication levels, said lead author Cinnamon Bidwell, an assistant professor in the Institute of Cognitive Scientists. While we saw striking differences in blood levels between the two groups, they were similarly impaired. There's like a saturation point that it goes on to determine and all that kind of stuff. And that seems to be what a lot of us have just experienced and then been able to see again when, testing was coming around in the early days and stuff like that.
I believe that there's research that supports, whether this is, I've seen and read research that supports the following, that the amount of CBD measured in comparison to the THC, the higher it is, the less the less psychoactive effect it can have. In other words,
Yeah, for sure. When people are, I mean, that could be exactly true like that, but for sure, when people are feeling anxious or that type of an effect from cannabis, and then have more CBD, that seems to mellow that out.
okay, but I'm saying, like, I think, I mean, there's, because I remember, as it goes sometimes, there's a statute in, I don't know, there's a statute in Michigan, I remember we use this thing where if you have a illegal controlled substance that is illegal, not,
And controlled.
and controlled, and you use another substance to minimize the quote unquote dangerous, because if it's uncontrolled,
Oh, right.
it's dangerous.
Yeah.
So, and it comes back to the thing
You
of
can
like,
neutralize it.
correct. So
Yeah.
then, and there's one case that went up. It was in Schuette was the was the
Bill shooting.
and this was they were arguing the statute. The guy was arrested for probably I think MDMA or something, something like that, and ketamine maybe, but he couldn't. He said his defenses were doing this or trying to minimize the things for whatever for medical or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's no evidence of it. You know what I mean? There's nothing other than just saying it. He couldn't show that there had been anything. Whereas here the caregiver that's intentionally, or at the time, caregiver that was intentionally growing a certain strain, call it a pheno hunter, trying to develop this exactness of what they believe at the time, for putting inside the terpenes.
No.
And especially when they're growing for a certain ailment that, I mean, at least it was believed that the
Stanley Brothers?
yes, well, that of course, but I'm saying, like, if to some patients, it became desirable to, receive cannabis that is higher CBD ratios to THC, where they become, and that became a push,
Yeah.
I mean, in some worlds, where it became, and the idea being that, well, I don't want to get real high, I just want to have the effects of the body, or, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that stuff still exists.
But I don't know.
It exists.
But I don't know if it's the ratio. I mean, I'm saying you can look on PubMed too. There's a study. There's a couple of them. I'm certain I could post them later maybe. But it reflects the idea that, in fact, wasn't that we were arguing about with Jamie's the operator over at Botanical and et al. You could say
Operator.
She'd produced a study from some point that was discussing that.
THC was the difference in the effect of the 26 people in driving or something like that.
Yeah,
I
but
looked it over a little bit,
but it was addressing the issue of actually the impact of the CBD reducing the driver's,
Oh yeah, okay. I mean, I didn't really
something like that.
get deeply into checking that out. I still will at some point, but I just haven't.
Right.
Check it out.
Jeff, you pop back in. Jeff, do you know what I'm talking about?
In the context
Yeah,
of
I'm
driving.
trying to find that statute.
So,
The statute, there's a study, right? I mean, in Michigan, right. That's the, it's going to come
Yeah,
up.
there's a statute that effectively says that if you take a Schedule I substance and you add something to it that decreases its
danger.
harmfulness
right.
or something like that. I forget the result. Did it take it?
Then
out of
then it's not.
Did
Then
they
it's
take
no
it?
longer illegal to possess. That's what it is.
Right. Yeah, we'll have to track down that statute. I'll look now.
Defunct.
I mean, Michigan has some. I mean, that is a. So you understand? So if so under a non-medical marijuana state, I mean, without that law, a person that's growing Schedule I marijuana that's with high CBD strain, hybrid or whatever, that's trying to
really
reduce the.
Removed the danger from.
Well, that's the.
Yeah, the idea is that the CBD in the strain
Offsets.
makes it offsets and makes the THC less subject to abuse or whatever.
Because
the person who Amanda was had on the show from Ohio, and I'm sorry the name escapes me at the moment, but the consultants, had a further explanation and understanding of why that works in terms of what it does with the receptor or something like that.
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up, Jamie, because we just launched the course. Actually, it was just today. So it's a 4-module course for beginners. It talks about terpenes and cannabinoids and the receptors and all of that stuff. So it's really helpful for new patients. It's online training.
But listen, at the end of the day, we're still not, just like with the lab issues, there really is not yet a, there's no bullseye yet. There's no marker as to what it even looks like. You know what I mean? Like the profiles that we're talking about. I mean, yeah, right. You test it, it gives you a profile, you know what it is, right? But, the answer to whether or not, and I don't even know if there ever can be an answer. The answer whether or not you get, 8 amount of this and this and this, and you get it all combined, and that's the perfect, and what it's going to do and be able to predict that, it's probably not going to happen. I think we're always going to be left subject to the following, which is you want to, the more factors that are being tested, the better, right?
Right.
The more you know about, you can then figure out by yourself. Because, Jim, that's what you were doing. You're starting with 2 or 3 factors, CBD, CBN, whatever. And
you just try to draw a correlation. It's not,
it's not a science, and it may never be. You know what I mean?
No, just doing the best we could.
And you're titrating. You're taking it easy.
Yeah.
You're not doing a dosing that would, have I don't know what kind of impact could happen that would be, but,
Well, I don't know. We had kids that were, on 3 grams of oil a day, and that oil was consistently testing at, above 90% THC. It was significant, and they were fine.
Right.
And some of them got better as a result of it. It was great.
But they eat it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, just like when we're talking about this THC and evaluation of flower or concentrates, that's eating it gets into like a slightly different discussion, about it.
And
just making
the girls from Ohio, one of them, Kelsey, she's part of the Canna Concierge, and was at the Cannajam as well. But Kelsey is a licensed pharmacist, and she's also been through a lot of the pharmaceutical cannabis training, or cannabis training specific to what her job entails. So she can go over like medication reviews and help people in that regard. But then Danielle is more of a cannabis advisor. So she focuses on things like what we were just talking about. And she was the one that developed the modules or the training. So I'll see if she can come on next week and maybe talk a little bit more about it. But they're good resources.
That's always been a problem. They're not doing any real studies that are going to be. There's some studies that are being done, and there's a lot of information, a lot of studies, a lot of PubMed, but small groups of people and whatnot. What's also interesting is that, this is kind of significant for the ethogenic medical community, but Michigan has always been, or has been, a right to try state. Do you know about this?
I sure do.
Which means even though a substance may be illegal to possess and use, Michigan protects the possession and use for medical purposes if it is in a stage 2 clinical trials. Distribution of it, not so clear, but under a medical guidance, it's a defendable position. I don't know. Not invite anyone to get there, but it is,
This is not legal advice.
No, but under the theory that the statute is designed to protect individuals for the use of what may be considered illegal substances for their medical treatment under the Right to Use Act.
Right.
If in those substances that they're using medically are in stage 2 clinical trials. So says the law in Michigan. I'm not encouraging it. I'm just saying that's and it should be done obviously under the guise of a physician, which is also problematic because are they allowed to? What are they doing? Recommending it to you? Yeah, I think a recommendation is what should be happening. But nevertheless, right, we're back to that.
Yeah, we got to take a break.
All right, we'll come back and we can discuss the number of deaths caused by moldy weed that are now accumulated to 1. I understand from
Oh my gosh, yeah.
lawsuit and
There was a moldy weed death? Oh, we're going to have to hear about that.
Yeah, you've got to hear about that,
All right,
Jim.
super. We'll be right back.
all right.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
When you're charged with a crime, you need a real attorney. And here's just a few reasons why. The police, the courts, the labs, the drug tests, probation, the judges, the jails, the prisons, and the entire system is just one big machine. They have one objective. Take your freedom, take your possessions, take your money, take your children, control your life, and destroy your future. You only get one chance to hire the right attorney. One that will stay in your corner. One that will fight for your rights. One that will fight for your freedom. Choose an attorney that's experienced in fighting the justice machine. Attorney Michael Komorn. Knockout victories one case at a time. Komorn Law. Google it. komornlaw.com.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
This is for those 2 wonderful couples that have been out here the whole time. Thank you guys very much. You're wonderful. I look forward to seeing you all next year. We are the Fox and the Fiddle. Thank you, everybody. Well, I set out after 25 years of hanging out and drinking beers. Finding a life of my own out on the road. And the way we think life ought to be, all ain't the way now. As you can see, ours seems to be a lot less love to go around. Trying to get from where you are or where you wanna be. Keep on believing, soon you'll see it. Everything you wanted, that's how you live a dream. Fall right into your lap, it's in the time since happened just like that. Never mind the things you think you knew. All you gotta do is, all you gotta do is believe. Well, I met a man now in Timbuktu, and he looked at me, told me the truth, so be thankful for this life that you've been given. Some times are tough and the chips are down. Now remember you can turn the whole thing around. So be thankful for this life that you live on. Try to get from where you are or where you wanna be. Don't believe I soon you'll see it. Everything you wanted, that's how you live a dream. Fall right into your life, cause the time things happen just like that. Never mind things that they can mean. All you gotta do is, all you gotta do is, all you gotta do is believe. Fall right into your lap. Sometimes she said just like that. Never mind the things you think of me. All you gotta do is hang on there with my leg. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And the fiddle, be good and kind to one another. Tell someone that you love them. Pick someone up when they're feeling down. Always look before you leave. Remember, most importantly, we love you. We're the Fox and the Fiddle. We'll see you next year. Miss Emily Joy. Oh yeah, I'm Austin Scott. Thanks everybody. Have a wonderful day. Oh yeah, we're doing it. Thanks, everybody.
An important and historical farm crop in American agriculture has returned after having been classified as a controlled substance and illegal. On December 20th, 2018, the President signed the Farm Bill, also known as the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, into law. The signing of the act was great news for the hemp industry, which amended the definition of marijuana in the Federal Controlled Substances Act. Hemp is now defined as the plant, Cannabis sativa L, and any part of the plant, growing or not, with less than 0.3% THC concentration on a dry basis. The plant itself is no longer a controlled substance. Hemp is one of the most versatile plants on earth. From clothing, fiber, paper, building materials, hempcrete, biofuels, CBD, and medical uses, it has been a part of America's industry for over 200 years. Even the United States Constitution was drafted on hemp paper. The time is now. If you're thinking of getting in the farming or processing of hemp, contact our global experts, legal, and consultation teams to make sure that you're on the right road when you venture into the new hemp industrial revolution. Michigan Hemp Industries has been a leader and advocate for the return of the hemp industry, so come be a part of the new revolution in agriculture in Michigan.
Charged with a crime, you need a real attorney, and here's just a few reasons why. The police, the courts, the labs, the drug tests, probation, the judges, the jails, the prisons, and the entire system is just one big machine. They have one objective: take your freedom, take your possessions, take your money, take your children, control your life, and destroy your future. You only get one chance to hire the right attorney. One that will stay in your corner. One that will fight for your rights. One that will fight for your freedom. Choose an attorney that's experienced in fighting the justice machine. Attorney Michael Komorn. Knockout victories one case at a time. Komorn Law. Google it. komornlaw.com.
Bill Schuette led the charge against medical marijuana, and even after the will of the voters was decided and the support was enormous, he still continued to fight against the will of the voters, keeping patients from the medicine that they need. So I think it's important that we all speak up on what we think about this initiative. But when the voters have their say, their will must stand.
I am Earl from G3 Cannabis Therapy Network, and you are watching Planet Green Trees, the original and #1 podcast in Michigan for all things cannabis and legal news.
Here's Michael Komorn with more Planet Green Trees.
Alrighty, we're back. Thanks for staying with us. Listen to Planet Green Trees. Michael Komorn of Komorn Law PLLC. We were on with Jim, Steve, Amanda, Jeff, and Jamie. And we were moving on to some other topics. I was going to pull one of these things up here, but...
that somebody died.
Yeah, right. That's what we're doing. Let's see here.
Okay.
I'm
not sure what the hell that was. But.
Curaleaf
Heard
federal
news.
Charge.
Where's Dan? He needs to explain this.
Okay, that one.
Dan.
Here we go. A wrongful death lawsuit filed in the U.S. District Court in Oregon on January 1st against Curaleaf, a Massachusetts-based cannabis company. Started in Portland, says its CBD oil contained THC that killed a 78-year-old man in eastern Oregon. The lawsuit alleges that Curaleaf sold droppers of CBD oil to customers that contain undisclosed amounts of THC and alleges that the plaintiff, Earl Jacoby, ultimately died from complications after he ingested the CBD drops. The lawsuit says that Jacoby took the drops in late August. Shortly after the lawsuit, 78-year-old Jacoby fell ill. He believed he was going to die and experienced stroke-like symptoms, experienced sudden numbness and weakness in the face, arm, and leg, sudden confusion, trouble speaking, difficulty understanding speech, trouble seeing straight, etc. Jacoby
that is
pale.
Very specific.
He,
Yeah, wasn't it like 2 weeks he passed after he took a drop of the CBD oil?
Yeah, right.
That's what this is.
Right.
This is saying basically that there was more THC in it than he expected, and he had adverse reaction and passed away from it. So they took a federal lawsuit.
A couple of months later, though, right?
Oh, a couple of weeks later, I think it was. He got. I mean, he was sick. You know, he's. But a couple weeks. I mean. I don't know if I buy that. I'm
okay,
not
so here you go. So here's the new news. So the Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Commission initially recalled hundreds of the CBD drops made by Curacan, acquired by Curaleaf in 2020. In September, shortly after the company recalled bottles of the same brand of drops, but which were supposed to contain THC, the Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Commission found that the THC drops did not, in fact, contain THC as claimed. Defendant in the allegations was negligent by failing to exercise quality control standards of its products, which would have detected THC inside its selected CBD drops, the lawsuit alleges.
They're saying the THC killed this person?
Yes, there was an undisclosed amount or an inappropriate combination of. First of all, there's going to be trace amount. I don't think you can.
Bad testing.
I don't understand how would so they.
Right. Right. So whatever the amount is not disclosed, but it's fair to say that it should be presumed that there's going to be at least trace amounts because you can't. Like there's no 100%.
I just don't understand what that has to do with the death of this person. What did this person's autopsy determine was the cause of death? Was it some crazy THC shit? I mean, come on.
Here you go. Here's some information. The class action lawsuit was filed against Curacan 2020. Here goes it.
There's a Curaleaf right here close to me, and they're multi-state operators, so this is one of their, one of their places.
This is the answer. Michael Fuller, the lawyer who filed the lawsuit, was represented over 10 plaintiffs who have accused Cura of selling the CBD drops without properly labeling them, leading to health issues. The company has claimed that the mislabeling was unintentional mistake by a junior employee. The lawyer, Fuller, tells this magazine writing on this, that the 9 of the 13 claims against Cure for CBD drops were confidentially settled, seemingly being not confidential. Cureleaf is no stranger to legal fights. The class action lawsuit was filed in 2020 after it failed to disclose additives in thousands of its select brand vape products. Class action was also brought by Fuller that resulted in a $500,000 settlement. The lawsuit came just 2 days after Cure paid the maximum fine to the commission for not disclosing the addition of botanical terpenes.
Oh, boy.
In the vape oils. And at the time when the non-marijuana derived terpenes were allowed in products due to the vape-related respiratory illness outbreak in 2019. So I don't know what any of that means. I don't know that the connection is either.
I don't know, but I don't like the popcorn lung. I know that. So
what's the popcorn lung? Oh, that's the thing that happens from the vaping?
Yeah.
With vitamin E?
E-acetate.
Is that been established, or is that caused or correlated? Jamie, what do we know about that?
I think that was established, that vitamin E causing those issues. As far as like how much use and what period of time and all that kind of shit, I don't know if that's been figured out or whatever. But there's a certain amount of cases in a lot of states. I mean, it was. I think there was enough there to know that was an easy way for people to inhale the oil inside of their lung, and then it cools off and starts causing issues by forming an oil back inside of the lungs, or however that works. I mean, that's sure, but, so I that's my understanding.
Wow.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. Popcorn lung. That was one of the things. When did that come up? Was that pre-COVID?
There was a lot of cases in a lot of states, and they traced it back to that product. I mean, I think that's what happened. I'm not sure if it was, how conclusive, whatever.
Well, they banned it.
Was, but
I mean,
it was taken out of circulation, and
yeah, it was a big deal. But that's not the case here. These were botanical terpenes. So it sounds, I mean, it could be perfectly safe. We don't know. I don't think we have enough data.
Did anyone hear about this? Do you remember the ex-Speaker of the House, Chatfield?
Yeah, sure do.
He was the Speaker of the House in, he's subsequently retired, but his former House Speaker's sister-in-law has filed a criminal complaint against Chatfield, alleging he sexually assaulted her.
Oh, gosh.
Multiple times over 12 years, stating when she was a teenager until last summer, her lawyer said.
Oh.
I just...
this is Lee Chat?
The allegations. I am not... so we know. But I just know that was...
What's the relation between the two?
Ex-Speaker Chatfield's sister-in-law tells police that Chatfield, sexually assaulted her. Kind of crazy, one would say.
It's insane.
Innocent until proven guilty. I can't emphasize that. I agree. All right, so we talked, Jamie. Anyone want to comment on the associated lawsuits that are occurring here? This lawyer seems to have found some buttons to push.
Well,
whether it's it's I mean, I don't know. There's probably some.
But it doesn't seem like there's much to point to. There's enough to point to prove anything about THC. I mean, it's similar to the conversation that we just had.
No. I'm saying this: the concept of a commercial market, whether it's cannabis or something else, requires.
Right, not getting what you expect.
Right. So.
Right. Yeah,
so
exactly.
Based on that, that social contract that's expected, whether it's lettuce, macaroni, whatever, milk, some other, where there's some oversight on it, and you don't get it, and you maintain, whether it's true or not, that you become sick at that exact time, whatever the elements are, as little as there is probably proof to show causation related to that particular, combination of whatever, too much, whatever it is, as little as there's it may fly for purposes of, you're going to need a doctor right? In order to proceed to a jury, you need some doctor's going to say, oh, yeah, the cause of death was this or related to. I mean, it could be, it could be related. Someone could have a heart attack, right? I mean, I don't know. It would cause it could be through a clot, aneurysm or something like that.
There'd have to be some sort of explanation as to how this wouldn't have happened had this mistake not been made. And I don't know. It sounds like they might be stretching a bit. So I don't know. I don't have all the.
No, I'm not. Listen, I'm not giving it any credence at all. I'm just trying to say, how does one bring a lawsuit like that? I'm thinking like a lawyer,
Yeah.
Like, how do you start
have to have
suing?
some pretty amazing facts.
No, but what I'm saying is, here we are. They're on the border. This is what the case is.
Yeah.
You sold us something. We paid for it. He ingested it, my client. Now he's sick.
Yeah.
And he died.
Yep.
And nothing else happened. Everything else was normal in his life. The only thing that was different was that every food that he buys, everything that he gets, everything that he goes, he drives, who he sees, how he does whatever he does. And this time you gave him more than what he's supposed to have, and it's your fault. That's the only thing we can figure out. So there you go. Do you get past summary disposition?
Yeah, but
you get to a jury. I mean, this lawyer's getting money for 10 out of 13 cases.
People die, right? And it's unfortunate, but it happens.
I'm saying that he's settled the cases. He's created enough of a oomph-a-lumph, and I'm saying, he's found his little thing here. And it's, and to a certain extent, the principle of what we're talking about here almost needs to be hammered. And I listen, I'm not suing for something, that's supposed to be in a sue-happy lawyer. I don't necessarily, but you got to have lawyers, you got to have lawsuits, whatever. There's things that have. But what I'm saying is that I don't know how this sounds to most who are listening. This guy that's suing and making making some money off of suing these places and claiming some damages, whether they're associated or not. I mean, he's clearly going to have to establish that, or he's at least alleging that. But is the criticism really appropriate for the lawyer, right? Because he's representing someone that's making this allegation. He's not out manufacturing it theoretically, right? Someone's calling his office and saying, "I got sick. They sold me some bad stuff." My point is,
and all these different clients, how many of them were
there? Was 10 out of 13 settled. But here's my point, though.
So 13 he's representing. 13, and they all found him, huh? That's interesting. They all found the same guy.
Well,
that's weird.
Only so many lawyers are going to do this kind of work.
Okay.
Here's my point, though. Is he the bad guy? Isn't the company that is not following the rules and charging? Listen to me. They're charging money.
Sure, it is.
Charging money.
Sure,
you get the stamp of approval that's given. You're assured that there's going to be a certain level of safety because you know why? Because that guy didn't buy it from some other place. He bought the one that the Oregon Commission.
That's not the question. Because of course, like they're in wrong, 100%. But did they cause this man's death?
All right,
I mean that's okay. Let's see some other facts here. Just the fact that he may have or did consume THC when he thought he was consuming CBD. Like there's got to be some sort of causal.
I have a tough time even getting there, but I'm saying that it's like a product's liability. Like. There's always going to be the issue of causation. There's probably nothing. I don't know. Is it a question of fact? It could be a question of fact for the jury.
It will be.
I don't know. I think it might not be if, like, for example,
the fact that they believed it didn't have it in there and it did is an issue as far as the consumer's expectations of
right. It may be
but the fact that it killed them can't be.
Well, it might be, there may be, Michigan law, and I encourage anyone that wants to explore these types of cases to call 248-357-2550. But the Michigan law on consumer protection is quite favorable to the consumer.
Yes.
Even the retailers from wholesale issues, marketplace. And there may be something like that. The damages associated with it may not be associated with the actual death itself, but there may be a per se violation of a Consumer Protection Act, which results in maybe levels of types of, and if you've got a jury trial in a Consumer Protection Act and you got a death that's involved, the jury's going to hear about it. You've leveraged, right? You've leveraged yourself. the point I was making is this: if you're making I mean, just as a matter of basic fundamental legal understanding, before I would think the whole debate on whether or not, the whole debate on the cases before the court is going to be, doesn't a expert have to say in their expert opinions that caused this before they're going to be able to bring that before the jury? The jury's not going to be able to decide.
No.
They're going to have some substantiated.
They would get their motion for summary disposition ready, and
Jeff,
that'd be the end of it.
Jeff, are you feeling me? Where's Jeff Fraser? You still out there?
Yes, they need to pass a Daubert challenge.
Well, that, and they have to, you'd think if it's a wrongful death case, I mean, there may be some other remedy where they're suing, like, there may be a per se violation of a Consumer Protection Act, right? Which allows for some kind of damages. So someone got sick, the family says they took that, he got sick, and there's the suing on not the actual cause issue, but instead they violated the Consumer Protection Act, and then tells them some damages or jury trial or whatever, and that leverages them. It's
like here's a Kohl's gift card.
Well, the first thing that we would do would be to move to exclude their expert or any expert testimony and have what's called the Daubert hearing to see if this guy's quote-unquote expert testimony saying that a little bit of THC 2 weeks before causes this guy's death stands up to any type of scientific methodology or reliability. We move to exclude it. The jury should never hear that kind of bullshit.
Well, yes, but I'm saying in order for this kind of case, other than suing on the principle of, and we don't know, I just, this guy.
But I mean, if you do that, if you can't establish that that some harm was brought on you, I mean, what can you really sue for? What are your damages?
There are some per se damages regarding statutory damages for not hard damages, as Jeff, it's hard, broken limbs and stuff like that. But I'm saying this: there may, out of the Consumer Protection Act, there might be, X amount of $1,000 per something. Or including any out-of-pocket expenses, medical bills. So if the case went to trial, the evaluation of this, what to settle would be higher, because if the jury got to hear about the connection here and the guy died and they're making the case, even though it's there's liability, right?
Yeah.
But my point is that if they're going to be suing on the issue of a wrongful death with no other claim, they're going to have an expert first, Jeff. They have to have someone opine in a way that they can even file that claim, right? Because the immediate response to that kind of claim is going to be a motion for summary disposition. They can't set forth a claim to which relief can be granted because this isn't an issue for a layperson to say and speculate on. No jury should decide this. It's a matter of law. And if they found someone, the first thing is you're going to have a Daubert hearing, and someone's going to have to explain where in the scientific community has there been a meeting of the minds that conclusion is just and
correct
and more. But anyways, I don't know. So let's see.
I wonder who they're going to have test that oil.
Well, you're right. It's a good question, and more interesting in terms of where it's going to be medically. I guess one of the other things that this would bring us to, just because we're talking about, the ongoing lab scandal. There was a couple developments I may not have been paying full attention. Let's get that order up if we can. I know that Jamie maintains, if we can, that the motion for reconsideration was filed and may have even been granted. And when I say,
the decision made.
So I brought this up. But Jeff, did you hear what happened? This is kind of, I'll explain it. We can get the article. Jim's trying to help out with that. But the
what do you want? The order?
There's a motion. There's
motion to reconsider.
Yeah, the order from that. Okay, so. Let's just use this date. Let's say December the 1st, the MRA issues a recall against the lab, at both of the labs, right? Virides has to on December 1st, an order goes on, you've got to recall, and they determine, and they have all the lot numbers, of course, over the 3-month period of time. And on December the 1st, they start getting the stuff back because now they want retesting or whatnot. Meanwhile, after December the 1st, while the recall has begun, they sue in court and they get sue for an injunction, a couple days hearing, and judge's opinion comes out after that. It's probably we're 2 weeks into this from December the 1st. It's called December 14th. The judge issues an opinion saying, in my wisdom, I'm going to split the baby. This lab, the injunction is granted. This lab, it's denied. This lab that was denied has to recall. The other lab that I've granted is enjoined from the recall. Meanwhile, for the last 14 days, they have retested all of the marijuana cannabis that has been recalled. And the ruling of the court was all of the marijuana cannabis that was ordered recalled from the MRA does not have to be recalled, and it can be sold as a commodity in the retail stores, says the order of the Court of Claims. But in the 2-week period of time between December the 1st and December 14th, in my scenario, they had retested an abundance of the recalled material, to which 60% of it or more was failing. You feeling me, Jeff? Are you still there?
Yep.
Do you get that? So you see what I'm saying? So the Court of Claims said, when it ruled on December 14th, that you've got 2 labs, and the MRA wants to force all this marijuana to be recalled, and the lab says, screw them, they're not smart enough to judge us, and say, judge, they don't know what they're talking about, and the judge says, well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to let, the Bake City lab stay open, and all that cannabis does not have to be recalled. You can get it back you can get it to the customer wherever it is. You don't have to recall it. And the one that's in Lance, you have to recall it. Okay, so he splits the baby. Meanwhile, from the date that they learned of the recall to the date that this opinion comes out, which is 14 days, let's say, the lab had already started getting all this cannabis back and retesting it because it figured that it's never going to be sold on the market unless what? Unless they pass testing, right? So at both labs, they had accumulated a ton of new tests on all this marijuana that was recalled. And when the opinion comes down that one of the labs doesn't have to follow through with the recall, the lab took the position that they're just going to send it back out there, even though they had retested it in those 14 days that I'm talking about and learned that it didn't pass. And they're still...
Both labs 60%.
Still failed 60%. So you understand my point? So they have now... So the idea is that the whole testing thing is...
bullshit.
Yeah, but what's really particularly weird is I can see the judge on one hand saying, no, here's the set of facts I have, here's my limited scope, whatever that other stuff wasn't my consideration, so fine. But then the system itself catches it. It's against the rules. Metric says it's failed a test, so it can't go into the market, and it gets taken care of that way in the process, so that something that failed testing by the standards from the commercial markets doesn't get sold to somebody.
But the legal position taken by this lab, number one, was that even though we know that it has failed, it should still be sent to the consumer. Yeah. Number one. The MRA, so after that scenario developed, Jeff, because the judge wasn't, keeping track of the retesting that was taking place. He just ruled, and the scenario developed in such a way that he, his ruling that one lab didn't have to recall. And at the time, it had been recalled. He was going to let all of it, he was going to let all of that get back out there. But the ethics of the lab testing and learning and making a determination that some of it hadn't failed, you'd think would be a requirement. Or there'd be some announcement from the MRA notifying the consumers that this is what we're talking about, that they're, double time failed. And further, it makes a total mockery of the significance of the regulated program. At the end of the day, the testing and stamp of approval on the product that you buy that's taxed, recorded, tracked,
highly regulated,
and assured through this regulatory system. Of all things, with that comes the assurance that there's been a, laboratory
that it's
analysis.
Safe.
And it's going to, safe is arbitrary, but the state created rules, right? And those rules, if you really care, you're guaranteed that. Now, this is what I was saying before. So we all know this, and I'm saying these things. Doesn't it seem that the company that's perpetuating these problems should be held accountable to some degree by way of, you know what I mean? Like if there was, isn't it bothersome that they're running amok in the regulated system and getting away with that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sure. Who was injured?
Well, we're back to the causation issue. The causation. The people that are injured, I imagine the fallout is on many of the retailers. What retailer would do that themselves? Here, this is what we're going to do. We tested it. It failed. You can have it back. Sell it. Go ahead.
The other testing labs should be the ones that are pissed off about this,
right?
And probably have been injured by it, unless they're doing the same thing.
No,
it's kind of like the principle is because we know cannabis, for the most, if this guy, who knows about his CBD THC situation, but we know it hasn't killed anybody, right? So it's not about that, but more about the principle of if they've set guidelines and they've set rules and expectations, then they should be following those things because that's all built into the pricing that the consumer or the patient pays. They pay for that service. They pay for that, and they know that that's what they're going to get. And just by the judgment or the ruling there, it seems like they just kind of invalidated, said it doesn't matter that we've set this forward and we know it's not going to kill anybody, and you've spent hundreds of dollars. Yeah.
Is that order where they're allowed to?
Can we find that?
To commercialize one of the labs, but not the other lab. Is that still in effect?
There is no.
He's got it up here. It's like an order for.
I have the motion for reconsideration.
Is there an order that was entered?
No, he just modified the preliminary injunction. We can probably pull that up.
But Michael, what you're telling me is that in spite of the fact that 60% of the marijuana tested in both of these labs failed a second time, that the judge is still ordering that the product from one lab can be commercialized, but not the product from the other lab?
Yeah, because the samples that were sent to other labs to see, if they would pass or not, was used as the basis, for why the recall took place. And since none of those samples came from the other lab, they only applied it to the Lansing location. But even though the same operators, same processes, same issues with not being able to demonstrate, the temperatures and the log of the information needed to show that they did it properly and stuff like that. Same issue at both places, but because only stuff was demonstrated to be contaminated from one place. That's my understanding. Isn't that right, Michael? Something like that?
Say that part again.
That because the contaminated samples showed up from just the Lansing lab, that's why that medicine remained recalled. But since none of that was demonstrated from the North lab, that's why that stuff was allowed to go back onto the market. And in the meantime, it was getting retested because that was its way back to the market. If they failed,
60% failed.
Yeah, right. I thought it was. I didn't think. I'm not sure how high. Michael might have the number there, but I didn't think it was that high. But regardless, a lot of it failed. And instead of allowing the system to take care of that, and then worrying about who has to pay for it. It actually was like mandated to go back to be able to go back to the market. That's the issue. I mean, it's the weirdness of this whole thing.
In no world should that failed tested cannabis make its way to the shelves of any cannabis retail store if there's any integrity to the program. You know what I mean? Like, as far as I'm concerned, you can't say...
Yeah. It's not the program's fault. It's the judge saying that the program can't do its normal thing. Its rules can't work. The judge is saying you have to bypass what it would normally, how it would.
Well, first of all, the idea that the lab who was impacted by the decision, despite being able to take advantage of a loophole, would, by virtue of its integrity as a lab, never, ever let failed marijuana testing leave their lab and be consumed. Their whole spiel, as nonsensical as it is, caregivers suck because they don't have to test, right? MCMA members.
Yeah, what up?
You gotta test. Gotta test because if you don't test, these caregivers in danger and blah, 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 blah. But the first chance they get to lose some money on some recalled cannabis, they do. Like, I'm testing. They failed. So what? No one's ever died from cannabis.
Yeah. They learned that from us.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I mean, do you see what I'm saying? Is anyone...
Standards are the reason it was pulled for health concerns. And so those, no matter what, the reality is of how dangerous that stuff is, or whatever, that was the reason it was recalled. Because they couldn't guarantee that it was done correctly. Now we know some of it isn't up to the standard for the commercial market, whether it's dangerous or not, but it can go back because it shouldn't have been taken off, according to the judge. That's just strange. I think the health concern would override, some of the other sterile, law considerations.
And are they supposed? Well, actually, John Schlicker said, "Does retailer need to tell the consumer that the product's failed?" So if I am a patient going to a dispensary and I'm about to buy some recalled materials, do I get to know that?
You would think that by virtue of the ethics of customer, loyalty, I would think so. There should be a sign-off of some kind. I mean, when caregiver product was being used and sold at dispensaries that wasn't tested, the patients were notified that they usually had to sign off, right, when that was taking place.
Yeah, they did.
At one point in time.
Right.
But
they know for sure that it came from Beardus North Labs, the place that was allowed to come back into the market. But I don't think they know for sure if it had failed or not.
How can they tell that it's coming from that testing lab?
It says it right on the label.
Yeah, the label.
Does it say it on all of them?
I think so.
Yep.
So I guess the consumer just really has to look at the package.
That's it. Ask questions. And, choose wisely.
I agree with Amanda that, if they put that product out there on the market without saying that it failed testing, man, it should bankrupt this company as long as anybody gets hurt. The question is, anybody going to get hurt?
No.
But the point is this, that you're always going to... See, here you go. Okay, we're back to where we...
Jim.
Listen, we're back to where we were before. I like where we finish up because I think... You're right, Jeff. We're always going to have a tough time establishing a causal link of whether someone's hurt or not. But I still think that there should be a cause of action for violating...
But it should be the MRA dealing.
No, it should be like the Consumer Protection Act in Michigan protects the exact thing.
No.
People should be able to bring... And they may not need to show direct harm from the product, right? I mean, they could receive... First of all, like a retailer that's been affected by it, the law would allow for damages. They're not suffering... medical injuries, they're showing economic losses that can be considered in there, right? And
Yeah, the other testing labs are the ones that are most clearly prejudiced.
Well,
like you say, why have a requirement if it's just treated like this?
Well, first of all, the other labs are losing because they're
not run by cops.
Right, they're either passing or inflating THC levels makes them more desirable, right? If you're passing, failing, what should be failed.
So you should know, I guess, Jeff, since you're just hearing about this, the red flags were it would fail microbial testing at one lab, be sent to that lab, and without any kind of remediation or anything, pass subsequently the second test, and very quickly from the time it was sent there. And that happened a lot, so that was kind of a red flag and what's got the investigation initiated. And then they have a method that they call the Viridis method, that is proprietary, and it consistently results in higher THC numbers than the way that it's typically done, because there's not like a universal standard, so they just developed.
Well, that's where I'm taking my product if that's making me more money.
Well, that's because that's important to the market. We discussed why that's stupid earlier, but that is also a reality, as stupid as it is.
The Viridis
and the stuff doesn't fail or can like pass the second time around because you get two shots at it.
When did you come up with this idea of the Viridis method?
Is that Viridis?
That's not my idea. That's what they call it.
During the testimony.
It's proprietary.
During that trial thing.
I don't know that
we are the only ones that can detect all the THC.
I don't know her name.
Her name was Michelle Glynn.
Yeah.
The one that was Jeff. She was the expert. She was an owner and a witness expert of the same, but I don't know if that seems
witness expert.
No, an owner.
Yes, she was talking about the Viridis method.
No, she owns the company,
and she was certified as an expert
to testify
on their behalf.
And they weren't really discussing the THC thing at those trials.
I'm so confused.
I listened a little bit. And I just clarify. You think that they were discussing THC levels at the time, and they're lying about that? I didn't hear that, but I could be wrong.
I just said they were not discussing the THC part of it at those hearings.
So where was it heard that they were this thing that they claim is their method of
the Viridis method?
Yeah.
Well, they're under investigation for it, and they won't disclose what that method is.
It's proprietary.
They're saying it's all scientific, it's all good, and everything like that. But we're not going to let everybody know what it is.
We do a lot of science
because this is ours, and it's just incidental, that it happens result in consistently higher THC numbers.
It's the gold standard.
So that part is still under investigation by the state. Where that exactly is, I don't know, but that is definitely my understanding. I would like to find that and confirm why I think that, but that is.
I thought it was in the first part of that testimony. But they weren't referencing THC.
Oh, here we go. Hold on a
they were
second.
just.
I'm sorry.
Oh boy.
What? Are you looking something up, Jamie?
Yeah, I'm trying to find a reference to it.
So did we nail down a date for the Cannajam?
Yes.
2022 version?
Dan did. I don't remember what it was.
Dangerous.
I gotta look it up.
The weekend of October the 8th.
There you go.
All right.
So, Cannajam 2.
We are gonna. Yep.
It's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm gonna warn everybody: you got to stay out of the demilitarized zone. Had a lot of
Jim's gonna
lot
have
of breaches.
Jim will have it locked down this year.
A lot of breaches last year.
He's gonna have a lot more security options, personnel.
Yes.
Weaponry.
Yes.
Armored vehicles and things.
It's gonna be good.
It's going to be no joke this year at Cannajam.
Right. You will be.
We want to make
you
sure
will be safe as fuck.
the people who are lawfully there feel safe and are able to enjoy their cannabis and the great music we're going to have there freely.
Yeah.
Did anyone not feel safe?
Oh no, we made them feel safe.
Okay, all right, good.
We gave
I felt
them
pretty safe.
gave the impression, but there was some security
We had
Couple
deficiencies.
breaches?
we had
There
a,
was-
cou- a couple.
There
I
was
mean,
a few security deficiencies.
Yeah, but overall it was good.
But it was our first year.
Yeah.
So now
Right.
we know better.
We know where the holes are now.
Exactly.
We're gonna plug them up.
Yep. Right.
Yep. But
Yeah,
Speaking
so
of
it is.
that,
It's in the.
I
It is in
need to
the.
replace my tire.
Sorry.
No,
Go ahead,
for
Jamie.
it.
No, I think it seems like it might be in the order or mentioned in the order about how MRA first inquired about the quote Viridis method of potency testing. That's referred
I
to
can't
in the,
find
in
this
the,
alleged
in the actual
order.
Court of Claims order.
I can't find
The,
this alleged
the
order.
original one or the order?
December 3rd, 2021.
That was the original one that split the baby, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you're right. It probably was mentioned then. I mean, in part of the description of what the whole total issue of the investigation is that was going on and stuff.
I don't know.
Yeah,
It
I'm
wasn't
not
part of
going
the.
crazy.
It wasn't part of the complaint. It was always like it was obviously.
No,
Some,
it wasn't part of like what was discussed about the microbial testing and stuff, but
Right.
since it was a bigger part of the issue in the investigation by the state, it was in the discussion, I guess.
I mean,
You want to know what I think is so funny?
what?
Greg Michaud, he ran the Michigan State Police Crime Lab, right?
That's right.
Well, there was a time during the Carruthers case where I believe the Michigan State Police said they couldn't quantify the amount of THC in a sample. And now he's quantifying the amount of THC in a sample. I just find the entire thing ironic, and the allegations that potentially the numbers were less than accurate to me are, I mean, it's hilarious. Like, it's funny how things work out sometimes.
He would say it's very expensive, and you got to have a special type of police force that will be able to do those things. That's what I think he'll say. But
Very specialized. Very specialized. They had to come up with their own method to do it. And it's the only method that detects
The
all
Viridis
the
method.
THC. The Viridis.
We need to find out what that is. That sounds
It's a
suspicious.
secret.
Trying to get a patent on it, they want to keep it to themselves because it. I mean,
Well, they
it could,
could keep
it could meet all scientific standards, but the fact that it doesn't, utilize the same baselines as like what's commonly used, or the fact that there's not a universal, method, gives them some of this room to try to fuck around like this, probably.
The whole thing is suspect.
Well, yeah.
Yep.
all right, so we've addressed the level. Do you want to go do a roundabout of some of the? Because we got level. How much time we got? We got a couple minutes, right?
Got a couple minutes.
A few minutes.
Maybe. All right. So, quick roundabout here. We can take a break first, maybe. But
Taking a break.
The 2020 year in review.
Year in review.
Please stay tuned for that, and then we can hand out our awards.
Boom.
All right.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
When you're charged with a crime, you need a real attorney. And here's just a few reasons why. The police, the courts, the labs, the drug tests, probation, the judges, the jails, the prisons, and the entire system is just one big machine. They have one objective. Take your freedom, take your possessions, take your money, take your children, control your life, and destroy your future. You only get one chance to hire the right attorney. One that will stay in your corner. One that will fight for your rights. one that will fight for your freedom. Choose an attorney that's experienced in fighting the justice machine. Attorney Michael Komorn. Knockout victories one case at a time. Komorn Law. Google it. komornlaw.com.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
Check it out. We got a question we want to ask you. Hey, you got my bass up out there, bro?
Genetics, they over it now. They cloning on style. We talk it down, it is nothing but ashes. My brother Savage coming back with another funk classic. For your punk ass, we're taking y'all back from you were cutting class. Still up for the masses, not for the pop leeches. They crop seats, I'm not leaving till they drop to their knees and stop breathing. So if y'all wanna get stoned with me, then let it be known everybody growing trees from the bubble kush to the chocolate note. Just make it through the bump, then we all can smoke. And get lifted like Caesar, so much we smoke in the car, the police don't know who we are. It's Uncle Rico, fresh out the Midwest. Great things like this, great big pine in my chest. Do you wanna get high with me? You know I do, y'all. Do you wanna get stoned up? Light it up, it's smoke. Do you wanna get high with me? Do you wanna get stoned? Cannajam, we out here, let's go. The great city of Ypsilanti. A lot of history out here, y'all. Listen, I'm with the road, but East going deep in the green room. So much smoke we won't be able to see soon. When the OG-18 consume, no chemicals even through when my trees in bloom. It's digital butter and for medicinal purposes. And now it's serving heads, people feel the word is in. That's when they turn the meds. Now your hard-earned brands working for the fans. And when y'all turn up there, they just turn their heads. When y'all turn up there, they just turn their heads. Know your worth, man, you're better than that. A little cab, a dude with a jacket stacker than you dead in your track. Respect that. What I'm here to tell ya, it's just a little edibles, those pills will kill ya. What a familiar, don't that sound familiar? When we in the building, blaze that sense familiar. Let's go. Do you wanna get down with me? You know I do, y'all. Do you wanna get stoned? The mighty road workers in the place. Do you wanna get down with me? Do you wanna get stoned? Rest in peace to Bob Prober. Do you wanna get down with me? Let's go. Do you wanna get stoned? We still known as Hockey Town a little bit, y'all. Let's get it going. Just smoking.
Thank y'all. Everybody stoned already. Hey, this is like our new smoke anthem. But first of all, my name is T Money. Born under the sign of Virgo. want you to know how I feel about something. And I want all y'all to feel about it too. Check it out.
City like my name is James Mitchell. When we about to go on, we gon' get our smoke on and Rick and James, Mary Jane, but only share a close bond. I write another dope song, keep fanning the flames until the final toke's gone. Got me ghost writing hits like Side High the Prince, you know high and lifted, right flipping high get. You can barely see the slight slit through my eyelids. I never fly miss as I light another split of this hybrid. And y'all still acting cool out on the avenue like we just passing through. We'll have a dab or two and lose the attitude. Don't make me act the fool like passing to a blast the crew and make all y'all for the magnitude. Now you asking who is this savage dude? We may wrong, simple watch and bring the action through. It's like that. Smoke, smoke on. Smoke on, smoke on. Whatever you do, you gotta get right. Smoke, smoke on. Smoke on, smoke on. Smoke, smoke on. Whatever we do, we gotta get right. Smoke on, smoke on. So if you gotta light it up, y'all. Cannajam in full effect. Mighty Roadwork taking over the stage.
Yeah. Smoke on, y'all. Just keep smoking.
An important and historical farm crop in American agriculture is returned after having been classified as a controlled substance and illegal. On December 20th, 2018, the President signed the Farm Bill, also known as the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, into law. The signing of the act was great news for the hemp industry, which amended the definition of marijuana in the Federal Controlled Substances Act. Hemp is now defined as the plant, Cannabis sativa L, and any part of the plant, growing or not, with less than 0.3% THC concentration on a dry basis. The plant itself is no longer a controlled substance. Hemp is one of the most versatile plants on earth. From clothing, fiber, paper, building materials, hempcrete, biofuels, CBD, and medical uses, it has been a part of America's industry for over 200 years. Even the United States Constitution was drafted on hemp paper. The time is now. If you're thinking of getting in the farming or processing of hemp, contact our global experts, legal, and consultation teams to make sure that you're on the right road when you venture into the new hemp industrial revolution. Michigan Hemp Industries has been a leader and advocate for the return of the hemp industry, so come be a part of the new revolution in agriculture in Michigan.
Charged with a crime, you need a real attorney. And here's just a few reasons why. The police, the courts, the labs, the drug tests, probation, the judges, the jails, the prisons,
Bill Schuette led the charge against medical marijuana, and even after the will of the voters was decided and the support was enormous, he still continued to fight against the will of the voters, keeping patients from the medicine that they need. So I think it's important that we all speak up on what we think about this initiative. But when the voters have their say, their will must stand.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
When you're charged with a crime, you need a real attorney. And here's just a few reasons why. The police, the courts, the labs, the drug tests, probation, the judges, the jails, the prisons, and the entire system is just one big machine. They have one objective: take your freedom, take your possessions, take your money, take your children, control your life, and destroy your future. You only get one chance to hire the right attorney. One that will stay in your corner. One that will fight for your rights. One that will fight for your freedom. Choose an attorney that's experienced in fighting the justice machine. Attorney Michael Komorn. Knockout victories one case at a time. Komorn Law. Google it. komornlaw.com.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
Hi, I'm attorney Michael Komorn of Komorn Law PLC, and you are watching Planet Green Trees.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
Before you play, call me attorney Michael Komorn.
An important and historical farm crop in American agriculture is returned after having been classified as a controlled substance and illegal. On December 20th, 2018, the President signed the Farm Bill, also known as the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, into law. The signing of the act was great news for the hemp industry, which amended the definition of marijuana in the Federal Controlled Substances Act. Hemp is now defined as the plant, Cannabis sativa L, and any part of the plant, growing or not, with less than 0.3% THC concentration on a dry basis. The plant itself, is no longer a controlled substance. Hemp is one of the most versatile plants on earth. From clothing, fiber, paper, building materials, hempcrete, biofuels, CBD, and medical uses, it has been a part of America's industry for over 200 years. Even the United States Constitution was drafted on hemp paper. The time is now. If you're thinking of getting in the farming or processing of hemp, contact our global experts, legal, and consultation teams to make sure that you're on the right road when you venture into the new hemp industrial revolution. Michigan Hemp Industries has been a leader and advocate for the return of the hemp industry, so come be a part of the new revolution in agriculture in Michigan.
I am Earl from G3 Cannabis Therapy Network, and you are watching Planet Green Trees, the original and #1 podcast in Michigan for all things cannabis and legal news.